Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Tuesday, August the 20th, 2024. On the show tonight, Ken's Lee and Drysdale to talk about the latest in the ongoing saga of the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Plan 2050 to implement a complete city, a smart city, a 15-minute city into Winnipeg and the surrounding areas. And of course, I've been telling you this for the past couple of weeks now. If you guys live in any kind of city or town or municipality, basically, if you don't live somewhere off in the bush, you are going to be exposed to this at some point. And I believe that their agenda is accelerating. In the last month or so, we've been hearing more and more about 15-minute cities popping up all across Canada. I believe that the UK and Canada and possibly Australia are their target projects. Once they get the 15-minute cities established in those three countries, they're going to roll them out all over the place under the guise of possibly another pandemic, but that's just me opining here. I don't really have any facts to verify that, and whenever I do that, I want you guys to know that that is only my opinion. It's just based in things that I've been seeing going on from watching other media sources and following the information as closely as I possibly can. Ken will join the show in just a second. It's brought to you by Canada Nano Silver, canadanosilver.ca. The Recover Muscle Cream. Experience the ultimate comfort and relaxation as Recover works its magic. Formulated with cutting-edge technology, the Advanced Muscle Cream provides unparalleled relief, catering to your unique needs. It's a brand new product, and it's available along with all the other established awesome products at canadanosilver.ca. Again, that is canadanosilver.ca. If you're one of these people who says, I don't order online, I can't do it online, I don't trust them. I don't trust the internet, I don't trust the government, I don't trust anybody when it comes to my personal information being online, even though it's already there. If you want if you want a retail location near you, there are over 30, and there's going to be more popping up all across the country in the next few weeks. And remember, when I tell you that these folks, Kevin and Anna, they are with us. So when you buy from them, you are not buying from the cabal. You are buying from one of us, or two of us, I guess. There's Kevin and there's Anna. CanadaNanoSilver.ca. Again, the retail location's right up there in the retail locations tab. If you'd like to become a retailer of these awesome products, get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.ca. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.ca. All right, who's here tonight watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or X or Telegram or Rumble or ShadowDavis.com. Let's see. Judy is watching from Vancouver Island. Hello, Debbie in Tabor, Alberta. Judy is watching. Did I say Judy is watching in Vancouver Island already? Sorry if I did. Tony is watching in Calgary. Hello, Derek, watching in Millbrook, Ontario on YouTube. Eddie is watching in Stonewall. Hello, Michael, Terry, Regina, Janine, Linda, Cheryl, Vince, Carla, Kathy, Chuck, Linda. Wayne is watching with Patty on X tonight. Sherry is watching on X as well. Wherever you're watching, on whatever platform you're watching on, please, guys, let's get it out there. A like and a share goes a very long way to bring more eyeballs and more ears into what we are trying to do, which is get the information out, bring more people in. Information out, people in. That's what we've been doing for 4 years here on the Shadow at Night live stream. Now, listen, before we bring on the two Kens, that should be a touring act, by the way. I want to play a video for you. This is from Concerned Citizen on X. And Concerned Citizen says 15-minute cities are go. This used to be, in the video, a multi-road. Now it's just bike lanes. Have you noticed a lot of that popping up in your city or town? It's happening in Winnipeg. The UK, along with Canada, he says it too, are the first countries to embrace the World Economic Forum 15-minute city concept. This is Leeds. This is what we talked about over a year ago. Leeds. No cars and video surveillance everywhere. Of course, you might think this is okay in the center of town. Problem is that it expands. The plans for Oxford involve 13 different districts and a set number of permissible times residents can leave their district every year. The same thing, we understand, is being rolled out in Edmonton right now, even though they've written into the legislation, the civic legislation, that they'll let you travel. It's just how you travel they have a problem with. Then Concerned citizen says you give up your cars. It's not a coincidence. The roads in Britain are soon becoming almost impossible to drive. Let's have a look at this video here and see.
This used to be a double road, and they've extended the paths and taken it down to single traffic. That's one-way traffic. If you look, they've changed all the traffic lights, and there's cameras on every top of the traffic lights. They face downwards as well, so they capture your face. There's also these black type scanners, don't know what that's for. So I'm just showing you coming up to the end of the road, and again on top of the lampposts. Every lamppost has got the cameras. Again, they face forward and down. They have scanners on them, so they capture people as they cross the road, their faces. These are all the new bike lanes. These used to be roads, and they've taken all the roads out, kept one road, but this used to be a multi-road, and they've taken it all out, put bike lanes in. They've done this everywhere throughout Leeds, but this is just the city centre. They're still working on this part over there. They're making it pedestrian only, so they took all the roads out, all the main loop system that would go around the city centre. So we're just coming to the end here now, and if you look on top of the lamppost again, every lamppost, every crossing has these cameras, and they face downwards, across. They're basically capturing all faces in the direction that pedestrians.
Just kind of abruptly ends. I wonder if that had anything to do with a sudden internet outage as she was filming. Hello, Ken. How are you?
Wonderful. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Hello, Ken. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Let's talk about the 15-minute city concept that the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region denies is a 15-minute city concept. First, Ken Drysdale, you've been doing a lot of work. I know you had a meeting, you guys, last night, a Zoom call to discuss everything that's going on. And without naming names, we've got some pretty upset big power players behind the scenes who are going to be bringing this to their municipal councils, you can bet. But let's go to the Manitoba Stronger Together website right here, which has been designed by Ken Drysdale. And you go into great detail here, Ken, about the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Plan 2050, and you give all the pertinent links. Can you explain this, please?
Well, you know, this isn't just about the Manitoba Metropolitan Region Plan 2050. Somebody can read the plan and they miss out a lot of what else is involved here. So on this webpage, if you start to roll down, right at the very beginning, we give a whole bunch of documents that people can download and read for themselves. It's just underneath, keep going past the table of contents on this. There we go, reference documents. So you can see that there's the Winnipeg Municipal Region, the WMR Plan 2050. But there's also the City of Winnipeg Transportation Master Plan, the City of Winnipeg Planning Amendment, and the City Charter Amendment. Those are probably, Ken Lee, those are probably the three biggest parts of this that people need to read, and they need to read them together, because the Winnipeg Municipal Region Operational Procedures Plan tells folks how this organization is going to act. And it's very interesting how they vote on things, because essentially the city of Winnipeg has veto power over all of the 18 municipalities, including the city of Winnipeg, in this thing. And then the plan itself, it's actually really interesting. It starts off right in the preamble about how it's embraced the United Nations Sustainable Development philosophy, and that in and of itself, if people read it, is incredible. So again, there's a lot of reading, and I tried to break it down in this web page that we've got on Manitoba Stronger Together. But those are the key documents that folks need to download, get in their hands, and start reading through them. And again, if you go back up a little bit to the table of contents, it'll give people a good idea of what we've got here. There we go. This is an interactive table of contents. So we give you the reference documents. We tell you what the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region is. We talk about the Planning Act, which was the instigating document for this. We compare the original goals of the Planning Act, because when they started this thing, it was actually, I think it was, Ken Lee will correct me, but it was really Gary Dewar that instigated this thing. And then it went PC government, NDP, PC, NDP. So they were all in this. And if you look at the original goals of the Planning Act stated back 10 years ago, and look at where it's gone now. I don't know how else to describe it, but to say it's gone woke. It went off of where it was supposed to be going. We want to talk about fixing roads. We want to talk about bettering our infrastructure, and instead we're talking about UN sustainability goals that are coming out of Geneva, and we're talking about equity and inclusion and all these kinds of things that have nothing to do with the roads falling apart all across our province. And in any case, and you can go down here and you can, again, all of these items that you see, they're interactive. You can click on it and it will take you to the spot in the web page, and it gives you a discussion, a factual presentation of what's going on.
Lack of transparency is one of the big ones that people are talking about. Ken, Lee, you were about to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when I look at the fantastic work that Mr. Drysdale did, putting this webpage together, and when you think that what they're trying to push through right now with the Plan 2050, and also we can't forget the city transportation plan, because we compared them and they're pretty, very, very similar. But wouldn't it have made sense if, for one of the most monumental changes they are going to make in our life, our everyday life, and never mind our everyday life for our children, our grandchildren, that the WMR did not have a page like yours with all these documents and all this support? Instead, they put out a plan which is so vague, difficult to follow. And on their FAQ page, they go say, well, just go read the plan because you got this information. Well, you read the plan, and like Ken points out, you can't understand it. They have a glossary of terms in there so you can understand all the new words they've created and new definitions they've created. It's really so outrageous. I mean, that's the word I guess to use, is that Mr. Drysdale can put together a web page that's interactive, makes it easy to get around. You can ask questions, you can use AI, you can do all these things and get your answers. So right now, we're the ones that have to give the answers. Now, thankfully, we have a web page now that's going to be able to produce, questions or answers that people are looking for.
Well, hold on just a second here, Ken. We are giving out answers, but they're giving out answers as well, because what they've been doing for the past week or so is rolling out that executive director. I forget her name right now, but apparently she's kind of new at this. And she's been saying, well, no, nobody needs to worry about anything. That's the line.
That's Jennifer Freeman.
Right.
It's interesting, Chad, just a little insert there. We talked to her and the Niverville meeting before it was canceled. And in her words, and I'll quote her, well, I can't quote her exactly, but what she said to us was that she didn't know what a 15-minute city was, never heard of it before, and didn't know why people were so upset with us. This is what their executive director were telling people at the Niverville meeting. And yet they've got all of this stuff on their FAQ page.
Yeah. Well, the number one question here, why should I care about the Winnipeg metropolitan region? No matter where we live, we share the same challenges and want the same things. No, we don't. We don't. No, that is communist speak. That is everybody being equal, right? We all want the same things. We all share the same challenges, no matter where we live. That's nothing but a pile of crap. So that doesn't start off too well. We want good jobs. We want to grow old in our own communities. Maybe, maybe not. We want the water we drink to be clean. You mean it's dirty now? We want our kids to stay here. We want our grandchildren to be raised here. Now imagine if we could have that together. The mayors and reeves of 18 municipalities in the capital region want that too. Well, not necessarily. How many of them are starting to make noise about pulling out of this thing, if they can, or at least taking it to the province and seeing what the province says? So for 26 years, they've been trying to figure out how to work together as the Winnipeg. What? Well, we're only just hearing about it now. Wait a minute, just a second. There's more. I want to finish this off because it's hilarious.
On a roll.
Why do we need Plan 2050? Well, there's many reasons, but one of the big ones is that cities, towns, and municipalities are losing money planning the way we are right now. This is what? How? No explanation. This is wasting taxpayer dollars. For example, companies who are looking to expand or create new businesses are overlooking the region because we don't have a plan to work together. So they're going to Edmonton, Calgary, Quebec, and Halifax. Because of that? Hey, wait a minute. Stonewall doesn't have a plan to work with Niverville or Headingley or Springfield. I'm out. That is absolutely outrageous. And then they go on to say this, which is a bald-faced lie. Under number 4, does my local mayor, Reeve, and council still have the authority on what goes on in my community? Absolutely. Now they have a better way to talk with your neighboring municipality about common challenges so they can work together, save money, and stretch tax dollars further. You guys know that that's not true. You guys know that once this plan is in place, then all of these mayors, Reeves, and councillors are beholden to the board of the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region. They can't even dig a hole unless they get permission from the WMR, right?
Well, it's worse than that because, you know, and it is funny, but people are scolding themselves now, saying can't figure out why they didn't know about this and how they didn't know it was happening. And I can tell you, I've talked to a number of council members, and they had no idea what was going on here. And I spoke to one of the council members and one of the RMs a couple of days ago, and they told me that, well, you know, there's 18 members on this board, and we all get a vote. And that's true. But the second part of that is when they need to vote on anything. When you read the procedures, it's item 21 called voting. So whenever they have to make a decision on something, all 18 get to cast a vote. And let's say that 17 cast a vote for something. The next part of the test, so that's a majority of the directors, 17-1, right? But then the next part of the test is those 17 people who voted for whatever it was have to represent more than 50% of the people in the entire region. And guess what? The city of Winnipeg has 86% of the population of the region. In other words, nothing gets passed unless the city of Winnipeg agrees to it. So they're the king now. They're that they can veto anything. You know, I live in the rural municipality of St. Clements. Our rural municipality doesn't even go down as far to touch Winnipeg, and yet the city of Winnipeg is going to be dictating planning in Grand Marais. I mean, it's insane, and the councillors didn't even realize that until we started bringing that to their attention.
What was their reaction when you told them that that was in the plan? Were they shocked, or like what was the look on their face?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was asked several times and I to prove it, and I did, and I sent a, you know how I am, I sent a very detailed explanation with the scenario and everything in it, and it was actually the councillor's spouse that came back to me and responded and said, "Do you mean to say it means this?" And I go, "Yeah." And we never heard back from the counselor.
Oh, I wonder if there's conversation going on between council members now, because Ken Lee, as you were talking about before, and not that long ago, because we've only just recently found out about this, and I'm sure there's people who are watching this right now and finding out about this Plan 2050 for the very first time. What is this Plan 2050? What's going on? They were sworn to secrecy. The members of the board of the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region were sworn to secrecy, not supposed to talk about any of the goings-on on the board with any of their local council members or even their spouses. I mean, well, that's just an extrapolation, but who knows?
And more importantly, not any of the electorate. And they doubled down on that shadow yesterday. The WMR had a meeting on Monday, and then they had a press release, and they doubled down on advising or reminding all the councillors that they are not allowed to speak to anyone about the Plan 2050 until the second reading is completed.
Yeah.
So they doubled down. They have another press release came out yesterday. Like, they're so worried that people might find out what's going on. Like, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, it's just...
Okay, so wait a minute, hold on. So these guys go on TV and lie. Oh, there's nothing to worry about. They write a frequently asked questions list that's nothing but a pile of BS. And then they're prohibited from talking about any of this with anybody.
Wow. That's right.
Yeah, there was a statement come out from Mayor Chris Ewan from the municipality of Richaud today. And he says, I've got it on my screen. And what he says in his letter, and it's addressed to the premier, today I received a statement from the WMR. Again, this is the mayor of the municipality of Richelieu. Today I received a statement from the WMR which indicated board members are not to communicate with their ratepayers in an effort to maintain the public hearing due process. I don't know how not communicating is supporting the public hearing. And then he says, more than ever, it is now critical to answer the questions to the community members when a change that will affect over 1 million people is about to happen. So that's from the mayor of the municipality of Richelieu, and I think it just came out today.
Yeah, we were in contact with him today on another matter, but that's unbelievable. And that's great that he came out and said something finally.
So Richelieu is Niverville also, right? Or am I wrong on that one?
They're real separate. It's a town within the region, but it's their own separate vote. They have their own separate director.
Okay, so how many of the municipalities and towns who are involved in this have now spoken out against this plan? I last I heard there was 5. Are there more now?
Yeah, okay, so right now we have Headingley, Selkirk, Niverville, East St. Paul, St. Andrews for sure. Those 5 have made statements, public statements. We think that Dunatar has also had something on their website where they're not in favor of it.
Well, they're up near Gimli, aren't they? Dunatar, like they're up near Gimli,
yeah,
like Clandeboye.
Yeah, and Shadow. In addition to that, someone sent me the vote on the first reading. On the first reading, we were initially told by Mike Moore that the vote was 16-2 in favor of the plan. I got the minutes, and it actually was 15-4, and 2 of the people who voted against it are not on our list of 6, and they are Taché and West St. Paul. So unless West St. Paul and Taché have changed their mind since the first reading, then they would be also included with the 6. So we would have 8 at this point, which is getting close to critical mass, I think.
So yeah, like 8 of the 18 would be good. I'd love all of them to step up and say, wait a minute, hold on. But there might be some other circumstances in play here. Which one of you guys wants to and now we don't have Marty Gold coming on tonight. Marty has been digging deeply into this situation. But what is John Q? Who wants to take that one?
I'll take it, Ken. If you don't want it,
Thank
I'll
you,
take
Ken.
Isn't it Drysdale got this smile on his face like, I don't know.
You set me up there, Shadow.
The
first I'd like to say is what's been happening, I think because of your show and because of the Winnipeg Sun and Marty, that there's way more information out there now than there was, let's say, 10 days ago. And as a result of that, we're getting a lot of more awareness. And I won't call them whistleblowers, but people are calling and they're asking questions. They're going like, have you heard of this? Like, why is there a sign on the daycare center in St. Adolphe that says John Q built? Another project by John Q built. So people are noticing things and they're calling. You're going like, what's this all about? Like, what does John Q built have to do with building a daycare center? So people are waking up, and the problem that we have in trying to communicate to them is that it's such a convoluted process and in a convoluted set of actors that are involved in this entire process that it's hard to really explain it. And I tried to explain it last night at our little meeting there, and I was, every time I thought of something, well, what about this? What about this? I got bamboozled a bit there, but I made some notes today. So they've been around for quite a while. The Winnipeg Metropolitan Region was first set up. And then at some point in time, I don't have the date line exactly right yet, or don't know it yet. They created.
You guys, hold on just a second, Ken. Sorry to interrupt you because I know you've got notes you're going off here, but just put your finger where you were on the page.
Yeah, it's okay.
I've got to quit. We don't have everything yet on all of this.
Right.
No.
Last night, I mentioned to folks that we were going to be able to give them a little bit tonight. We're not going to be naming names. We're not going to talk about exactly what's been going on, but I did intimate some shady backdoor dealings may be going on. And when I said that, what I said was, it's amazing to me that there's so many people out there who absolutely refuse to believe it. They'd never do that. Even after everything we've seen in the past 4 years and the movies we watched, that one with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke, where he plays the bad cop, and all the cops are bad. They're all on the take. They're all selling drugs. And Ethan Hawke's the new kid. He's the only good one. He doesn't want to do it, so they got to kill him because being the good guy makes you the bad guy, right? So I think that they're all, and there's a way to go ahead and check this, and you've been doing that, Ken Lee.
We've been trying
in the last couple of days, and this may affect the votes on the WMR, this John Q board, because it's a lot of the same people on the board of this company that are on the board of the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, right?
Right. So when this thing was born, when it started, so it was an offshoot. It was created by the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, and it's a separate organization. And when the press release came out, advising the public, which I never saw when it came out, but it said something about that this group would be accountable through the elected officials who are on the board of directors. But they're not accountable to anybody. They are directors of a private corporation, no different than the WMR board, and none of them are really accountable to their own constituents because they never go back to them and say, okay, we made this decision today at the board table, and we want to our group has to vote on it, and depending on our vote, I'll take that back to WNR, and we can make a decision for all 18. So, sorry. Oh God.
So Ken, just let me step in here. So the John Q Public, is that a corporation that is owned or instigated by the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Board?
I'm not sure if it's a corporation or just a division of, but it's definitely related. And
well, let me.
We're trying to find out. I don't think it ever talks about it being incorporated.
Okay, but it's on the board of directors. There's various people who are mayors or reeves in municipalities, and they're on the board of directors of the WMR. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they're on both boards. So there's about 11 or 12 of them that are on both boards. So the chairman of John Q is, if you just go down the page, you'll see the chairman there is Brad Erb. So he's the reeve of McDonald. So the others are all on both boards, with the exception of Portage la Prairie. So Portage la Prairie shows up as a member of John Q Public. Well, they're not in the municipal region.
I'm just going to jump in and just ask if because you've got Brad Erb on there. He's on this board. He's the reeve of the RM of McDonald, right?
Yeah.
You know, he got 0 votes. He was acclaimed. He never stood. He got in. As a matter of fact, 8 of the directors on the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Board, you know, they're all supposed to be made up of mayors and reeves of all the municipalities. 8 of the 18 were all elected by acclamation. They never received a single vote to become mayor or reeve. And it's on our website.
The sad thing about that is that we have more to do with that than they do, because we just have this apathy when it comes to voting locally, which we shouldn't, because it's the most important level of government. These are the ones that can most affect our day-to-day lives, right?
You're absolutely right. And as you're paging down, Wes Taplin, he's the reeve of the RM of Rockwood, 0 votes. If you page up again, the reeve of the mayor of St. Clements, 0 votes. These people were all in Debbie Fibble-Corn, who I've been trying to get a hold of because she's my mayor, by the way, but she's ignoring all my emails. But she was elected through acclamation. In other words, nobody voted for her.
Who are these people who are directors at large? Who's appointing them? Like the board members of the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region are appointing Scott Corbett and Jim Campbell? Who are they?
That's a good question. I haven't been able to find that out or figure who they are at this point. So I don't know who appointed them. So
what is this company supposed to be doing? What is their function?
Let me just read what they wrote on their press release. It says, the ultimate goal for the John Q Public is to be the hired consulting group that will award contracts and procure goods and services for the region. So they are going to be sort of the guys that are going to be implementing or helped the implementation by hiring. So, for example, let's say the daycare centers. So they would then hire this separate division. It's called JQ Built. They would go hire somebody to hire a contractor. They would issue the RFP, and they would select the winner. And so they're going to control the billing of, say, a daycare center, for example. So I think that's their role.
So it sounds to me like these guys are just responsible for giving contracts out to their buddies.
Well, they could give it out to their buddies. They're
sole sourcing these contracts, though, Ken, right? Like they're just and does anybody else? And the reason that I ask you this question is because I heard about this maybe 3 or 4 days ago from a few viewers who were upset. These people are contractors, and they want the opportunity to bid on deals like this because it's make or break for them.
Yeah.
But they'd never heard of John Q before, and then they sent me this information. I went, well, what is this? These people are responsible for procuring services or contractors to build things. But we
right. Right. Well, the other strange thing about this, when they make mention of what does John Q bring to the table. So, I mean, that's what I was looking for. So why would they have a separate organization to do this? It's just another level of unaccountable directors is what it is. But they say, and this is the quote, it says they bring expert business advisory council. So I'm thinking, well, why didn't they just bring the advisory council right to the WMR? Why do you bother with a separate organization to have these experts? If they're experts in one organization, they could be experts in another organization, and then you wouldn't need this whole level of bureaucracy called the John Q Public.
Well, it sounds like the mafia. Does it not sound like the mafia where you like insulate yourself by, you're once removed, now you're twice removed away from any bad things that could happen? If you're a politician, that is.
Well, the other odd thing would come to mind is how come if this group is so instrumental in getting this thing implemented, and it was around, prior to the capital region being formed, how come this wasn't mentioned in Plan 2050? Why didn't they say, oh, and by the way, we got this expert group of people who are going to be advising us? How come, and they're great, and this is going to make this thing work. Nothing in Metro Plan 2050 mentions anything about John Q Public. Nothing. So I'm wondering again, why was it even set up in the first place? It doesn't really make any sense to me.
Well, Ken, I was in the consulting business for many, many, many years. And when you claimed you were an expert on something, you needed to show your resume. Have we seen any of the resume or qualifications of this board of directors, particularly these unelected, people who were voted in by acclamation? Do we know what their expertise is that supports them being this expert consulting firm?
But I don't know who they are.
I don't think they're the ones, though, Ken. I think this is some different non-elected people. It doesn't say that the council, they're saying they have a separate group of experts that John Q Public is going to bring to the table and help them with RFPs, help them with implementing, help them with finding construction companies, maybe, grading each application. You see, their first project was called JQ Connect. And you might remember this was in the paper where this John Q Connect was going to be a service provider for the internet, fiber optics into 6 regions that are all part of, 5 regions that are part of the Metro region, plus Portage Prairie. That's why Portage Prairie is in John Q, but not in the Winnipeg metropolitan region. And my understanding, the reason that Portage Prairie is in John Q is because they were bringing the cable from the west, and they would be right on the line. So it made sense for them to jump in and become part of this. Now, the other interesting thing is, so we started wondering, where did the money come from? Like, how did they get financed? So there was 5 or 6 municipalities that made loans to John Q Public in the amount of $250,000. So they ended
together,
up with
or each?
No, in total, 1.5 million. And that money, based on, again, their information, was to be used to start getting the cables into the ground. So then they had the RFP, and you mentioned sole sourcing. There was lots of controversy over the awarding of that contract. And what happened was an association of 8 internet providers, all from Manitoba, got together and they approached the WMR, and then they approached the province, and then they threatened to have a investigation by the ombudsman into the process of awarding the contract to a company called RF Now. And as soon as this group, this association, mentioned the ombudsman, they just disappeared. WMR, John Q, Connect, gone, erased from their website. In fact, when we were trying to find out about who got the contract, Marty typed in RN Now and found RF Now, and he found the press release. So it was completely wiped off the webpage of John Q and WNR.
Interesting.
Because it failed. And the reason it failed is one thing. They failed to meet the requirements under the Municipality Act. And there was a certain section, I think part 6 of the RFP or something, there was something that caused them to fail to follow the standards in the Municipality Act. And again, that's quoted somewhere in a piece of paper I have, but I don't know the details of that. But
I'm
that
wondering who's been checking on these people, because it seems like they feel like they can get away with anything. We're not naming names, but it seems like everybody, at least one person from each council, and maybe that's why the secrecy, is in on this somehow, some way. This is the John Q website. Okay, I want you to look, everybody, I want you to look at the very, very close resemblance to the ICLEI logo. ICLEI Canada. Look at that. ICLEI. Same colors, same letter design. John Q. Same color. Look at that. You know what ICLEI is? You guys watching this, many of you already know what ICLEI is. It is an arm of the United Nations. And so, Ken Drysdale, what you were saying earlier about all of these UN Sustainable Development Goals now suddenly being included in this Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Plan 2050, they have infiltrated our municipalities. Each one of them is somehow compromised or has made a deal with ICLEI Canada. Maybe John Q has something to do with it. Maybe it doesn't. But let's have a look. Look at that. It looks like the same freaking website.
Yeah, you might have a future as another Columbo.
One more thing, ma'am. One more thing.
Ken, on this network, on this internet network thing, did the John Q, whatever it's called, to do the network, didn't they also get a grant from the federal government?
I don't know. I don't know where they got the rest of their money, because there was 1.5 that was in their press release.
Yes.
And I think Headingley, I shouldn't say, McDonald put up 250. And our question is, what happened to that money? Like, we'd like to ask somebody, respectfully ask them, you made a loan of $250,000 for a project that never got off the ground. So where did that money end up with? Well, here's something else I found out today. This is interesting too. So in the Capital Region Planning, Capital Planning Region was born. It was born out of the legislation that was called Capital Planning Region. On their first financial statement, dated December 31st, 2023, an audited statement, there's a note. And in the note, it talks about the assets of the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region being rolled into Capital Planning Region financial statements. Included in there was over $500,000 of cash went from the old WMR into the Capital Region. And in the same note, it says from now on, the Capital Planning Region will be known as the WMR. So, and it dissolved. So WMR dissolved its old corporation. So we're trying to get the financial statements from the WMR prior to January 1st or April 23rd, 2023, the date that the capital planning region started. So we're trying to find financial statements from the old corporation, which is now dissolved. Can't find anything, completely scrubbed off the net. So what we're going to try to do is contact some councillors that were around in those days, or mayors, and see if they have financial statements that go back to prior to the legislation, the Planning Act amendment. So anyhow,
I just get the feeling that we may be exposing something that we had no idea we were exposing. We're working on trying to get rid of something here that could be hugely detrimental to 900, almost 1 million people in this area. And that has been the primary focus. But this other thing comes up now and could quite possibly show some serious corruption, not just with 1 or 2 people, but we're talking about dozens who could be implicated in this. And you asked yourself, Ken, where's the money? I'd like to know where the money is. In the meantime, they continue to lie on their frequently asked questions page. We've talked about this, but for newcomers, those of you who are just coming to the show tonight, you're brand new, you've never heard about this 2050 plan before. If you live in the Winnipeg region or even in southern Manitoba, most of it, you may be included in this. Your home, your property, your family, your place of business. They ask here in question 5, we ask and they answer, does Plan 2050 tell me what I can and can't do in my own yard and with my house? And they answer, no. Ken Drysdale, would you care to elaborate on that?
Well, it's interesting, in the plan, they're dictating much higher occupancy on the land, not just in the city of Winnipeg, but in the rural areas as well. So in the rural areas, for instance, there was always a push that if you wanted to build a house, it had to be a minimum of 5 acres or 3 acres or whatnot. And the reason for that is they were trying to maintain the rural character of the country areas. Now it's reversed. Now they're reducing this lot size. They're increasing the number of people on the land, and they're essentially planning to urbanize the rural areas. So are they telling you what to do? I guess it's just like, maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but it's just like nobody forced you to take the COVID-19 vaccination. You're just going to lose your job and your bank was going to stop doing business with you and you couldn't go to church, but nobody forced you. And you'll see some of the language in these FAQs of theirs, which is a similar thing. We're not going to stop you from using your vehicle. Oh, but we now have usage fees when you come into Winnipeg. They're talking about implementing a fee system, or if you drive your car into certain areas of the city, you've got to pay extra money for that. So no, we're not forcing you. No, we're not stopping you. Yes, sure they aren't.
Imagine that you have a house in your rural community on a large lot. You're reaching your 70s or 80s and the yard has become too much to care for. You want to downsize and stay in the community, but there are no condos, apartments, or senior housing built in your rural community because we've not planned for them. So you have to move away if you want to downsize. And we know that housing is a big problem right now, and it's only going to get harder. We also know that there is a lot of federal government funding for housing right now, but because we're not planning together, that's all of the communities, we're not getting that money. Plan 2050 is where we can all talk about getting ready for better housing together. And then they go on and they ask, or we ask, is this about 15-minute cities? No.
You got a comedy routine there, Shadow.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, how many times can they lie? And this is their own website, the frequently asked questions, hoping. And what did the mayor say, Mayor of Winnipeg, at the end of the Niverville meeting? I think he said, I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Okay, so what are they exactly? So you're going to clear them up with your frequently asked questions, but you're lying with every answer that you give. When you read the plan, he encourages people to read the plan, probably knowing they won't. So when you read the plan, all of this stuff is in there, which proves they're lying.
Yeah, there's a couple of definitions that I'd like to give of that so people can understand this document a little better. Right at the beginning, you talked about challenges. And whenever a politician or somebody says challenges, what that really means is that they've identified a problem, but they have no idea how to fix it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a challenge. So when you see challenge in the very first line of these questions, you got to know that they're searching for answers, but they seem to have them. And the second one is when you hear the term affordable housing, what does that really mean? You find that probably in the UN documents, which, again, they say they align their goals with the UN documents, but affordable housing is based on something like the CMHC would use, like what percentage of your take-home pay can you use for housing? So what's happened in the marketplace in the last couple of years, well, probably since COVID, construction costs have gone up by at least 30%. Interest rates have gone from like 8% or 4% up to 7-8%. So now affordable housing, what can you build for that price with a 30% increase in construction? And what do you pay for in a way of a mortgage payment with interest rates going up and up and up? It works out, it's probably a 600 square foot prison cell with no yard. So when they're talking about they'll produce condos for the elderly people who want to stay in their community, but to get an apartment that they're going to build. Well, if it's affordable housing, that's what they can expect to get. They're not going to get, a 1-bedroom place with a balcony and a yard around the apartment block. So that's the other misconception that they're giving here is, you can stay in the community and have a nice place to live. But really, for affordable housing, that's what Trudeau's building. He's building for affordable housing all across the country. And I think that's what it is.
Well, Polyev is talking about build too. High rises, condos near all of the transportation hubs. It sounds like he's all in on this as well. And Ken Drysdale, you were talking about this not 5 minutes ago. What does priority access roads mean? Right? Yeah. What is priority access? Will people not be able to drive their own car to Winnipeg anymore? Are people going to be forced to take public transit into Winnipeg? So they go in this word salad. Priority access is a term used in transportation planning that's typically applied to highways and is in no way meant to limit how people get around. People will still be able to drive in their cars whenever they want to. The plan encourages public transit for those who want to use transit, but nobody will be forced to take the bus. Now, isn't there some kind of a plan in the city of Winnipeg document that says they want to reduce car use by 50% in the next 25 years, and they want more people riding bikes, walking, and taking buses?
Yeah, they have a thing of what they call transportation modes, and they refer to 50% because you'll be in your complete community, or even actually the transportation plan of the city of Winnipeg, I think uses the term 15-minute city somewhere in there. But they say 50% of your should be active transportation, which is walking, bikes. I mean, they even have a picture of a wheelchair as active transportation. So they've covered all politically correct modes.
A wheelchair? Are you kidding me? Is there going to be a special wheelchair lane too? Hey, look at this. Something I forgot to mention in the answer to this question. Hey, what does priority access mean? It's a term used in transportation planning that's typically applied to highways and is no way meant to limit how people get around. Well, then what is it? When you say priority access, exactly what do you mean? They don't explain it. They don't explain it.
No, they don't. Like the Brandon, I guess they had a meeting last night in Brandon, and I think it went pretty bad for Brandon. A lot of
you mean the people of Brandon or the city council?
For city council, like the people of Brandon are dead against it, and like everybody else who's been exposed to this plan are angry, and that's the anger. Sometimes gets out of hand, and but I'm not sure they put aside 1 hour for questions and answers at the end. No, not questions and answers, presentations. There's no answers. There's nobody answering any questions anywhere. And then some people are allowed to speak after that point, but a lot of presenters there against it. And that's where they have that drawing in their transportation section, where they have on one big circle, they have a car, and then in the other circle, they have a bike, a guy walking, a wheelchair. Yeah, whatever. Oh, wheelchair. They have. So they're showing that
unicycle, pogo stick. Yeah. I mean, anything that doesn't burn gas.
And the other thing, I mean, nowhere do they ever mention in the Brandon plan or the Winnipeg plan or the Metro plan that it's friggin' cold here in the winter time and it's hard to get to the bus and walk. Yeah. And when you're trying to pick up groceries or going through a drive-through with your bike, I'm not sure how that all works, but they don't mention anything about cold weather, -30, for 3 months of the year.
Has there been any indication from anybody that you guys have heard when this next meeting is going to be? Have they come close to scheduling this yet? Where it might be? Nothing?
No,
nothing yet. Nothing yet.
By the way, Christine Ronsoray, our friend Christine, was at the meeting in Brandon last night, and she told me, and also Jen, one of our people down in the southern part of the province, that when you do get up and make a presentation in front of the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Board, you need to voice your opposition to the plan, or it just goes down as information and doesn't get listened to. You have to say, hello, my name is Barry, and I'm from the rural municipality of Richaud, or whichever, and then you have to say, I oppose this plan, and then you start with your presentation. So if you guys are planning on, guys watching right now are planning on talking at the next meeting, and by the way, I'm not so sure that these people understand that there's even more engagement in this now than there was a couple of weeks ago for Niverville. And what we're hearing from Niverville was that there was anywhere between 400 and 700 people. I've heard estimates like that. I'm thinking that this next meeting is probably going to be 3 times the size, over 2,000 people. If they don't get a venue that seats everybody, again, they have to reschedule it or live stream it. Am I correct?
Yes, I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I'm anticipating it's going to be a very, very large crowd there. Unfortunately, very angry people because they didn't get a chance last time. So now they had a chance to really get their blood boiling. But yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people there.
Yeah, there seems to be a lack of clarity on the procedures. Like this 40-day notice thing was what the WMR announced at Niverville. But if you actually look in their bylaws and procedures, there's no requirement for a 40-day notice period at all. So given, our concerns with their being factual, we're concerned that we're going to be announced 48 hours ahead of time and get a meeting because their bylaws actually permit them to do that. So we really have to be vigilant on this.
Wow, that's crazy. So 48 hours, we have to, once we find out, so we've really got to say, where are they going to announce it? On their website? We just have to keep clicking refresh for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
We don't know, and that's a good point. It brings us to a couple things. I did want to make this point tonight, or 2 points tonight. One was, they had 2 big what they said were public hearings for people to express their concerns. The first one was in 2021 during the lockdowns, and the second one was in 2022 during the mandates and lockdowns. And so how in the heck could they possibly have expected to get any kind of public engagement that way? But secondly, and I think this is really important, and we talked about it, but we kind of blew over it. Because you want to ask yourself the question, where did this come from and why, and who instigated this? And on the Manitoba Stronger Together website under the WMR 2050 here, we've got a section that actually answers that. It says political responsibility. And this was instigated by Gary Dewar, then Greg Salinger, both NDP, then Brian Pallister supported it in 2016 to 2021, Kevin Gertzen, Heather Stephenson, all progressive conservatives, and now Wab Kinew. And I want to point out something that's really interesting in this, and that is when the amendment and this people talk about Bill 37. Bill 37 was passed last year, and so it became a law. So it's no longer Bill 37. So what we have is the legislature passed Bill 37, and that became the Planning Amendment and City of Winnipeg Charter Amendment Act. Okay. Now, interesting about this, when they held the vote for that in the Manitoba legislature last year, every single conservative voted for it. Every single NDP person voted against it. And now you've got the NDP in power, particularly Bushy, and I have a connection. If you scroll up on your screen there, a little further down, down, the other way. Yeah, keep going. Keep going below. It's just below this. So those are all the premiers that were involved in this from all the parties, by the way, folks. And then where it says you may find the following very interesting. People can click on that where it says even more interesting. The bill was passed by 30 progressive conservative members in blue there. And 21 NDPs and Liberals voted against it. Now, what's so interesting about that? Well, the NDP are in power right now, and Mr. Bushy, who is the minister, voted against it last year, and now he's all in support of it. How did that happen? I'd like to ask. How is it that Mr. Bushy, who's the minister now, voted against it 12 months ago, and now he's in support of it and pushing to implement this by January 1st, 2025? I don't know if he's listening, but I would like an explanation. Now, Ken Lee is going to laugh at me because he knows this is all politics, but folks sitting there at home who are listening to this don't know how political it is. That they'll say X and then the next day they say Y. They're voting against something. When they get into power, they vote for it. And although Ken Lee and I, and probably Shadow, you understand that that's politics, I don't think the people understand that that is what happens. And you do not have separate parties. You have a uniparty. Because as soon as they get into power, they do exactly what the other party did. And this is a prime example of it. So, Mr. Bushy, if you're listening, explain to me how you voted against this 12 months ago and now you want it. Explain this to me.
Well, Ken Lee and I had this conversation the other day, and it was about deep state. And when we say deep state, you know, that's the kind of a blanket expression for the bureaucracy, right? No matter where it happens to be and at what level of government it happens to be at. And Ken, you've got 10 years experience as the chief financial officer of the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba. You know a thing or two about how deputy ministers and all of the people who have been in place in whichever department they've been working in for 20, 25 years, they're the ones who actually run the show. The politicians, it's just revolving chairs or with them, right?
Right. So like the system is dysfunctional in every way because there's so much information that goes behind every single piece of legislation that it take you forever to, if you were, let's say you were the minister of municipalities, to go through the information and figure it out. So he has people working for him that do that for him. So what ends up happening, I think, and after 17 years of NDP power, I mean, everybody they hired had to wear an orange shirt, pretty much. So it's deep. It's very deep. It's
Manitoba. Not just when they wear an orange shirt on the surface. They actually believe in the doctrines of the NDP, which is based in Marxism. Let's be honest here, right? And so when Pallister came to power in 2016, 2017, he didn't fire these people.
No. Well, there's certain people that are sort of like political appointments at higher levels, and they usually resign on their own. But there's some deputy ministers that didn't resign and they stayed on, and they were definitely not in favor of the conservative ideologies. But I had a discussion.
And this is when I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is when you get bureaucratic resistance, right? This is when they just kind of go, well, you know what? Policy comes down from the government, and the deputy minister looks at it and goes, yeah, that's great. Puts it in file 13. And then they send another memo maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, and people are wondering, hey, the government promised this and they're not delivering. Well, it's not their fault. I suppose it is if they don't check on what their deputy ministers are and aren't doing.
Right. Like, I think, we had some discussions with the Saskatchewan party, and they've been in power there, and they have 80% of the seats or some crazy majority, and they're still battling with bureaucrats who were left over from the previous government, even today. And so they're looking for ways, and they really, I guess it's really the unions are the ones, and of course the unions all support the NDP. And this last election, they support them to the tune of, I think it was $200,000 that was reported in the Elections Finances Act. Ken, did you look at those returns from the unions? Did you take a look at those?
I did look at some of them. Yeah, and it was amazing when I looked at how much money Mr. Canu's campaign apparently spent.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that was possible for that amount of money. And we've
No,
spoken about that offline, but
no, there was a lot of things that happened during that election where unions were paying directly, telling contractors to bill them, not the NDP. And so they would get so this would never show up anywhere on the financial statements of the NDP, but they would just pay for events or pay for whatever they were paying for, and they would just send us the bill and we'll take care of that.
yeah.
So those kind of things go on. Like it's
And
pretty.
You're not supposed to do that.
Well, and people should
No,
know.
it's against the rules. It's
People,
actually against the rules.
people should know that these returns are available to the public on the Manitoba Legislature website. You can actually find them, and you can open them up, and you go, "What? They spent 20 grand? It's not possible."
This is like this. This is like this everywhere. Something else. I want to just change a little bit of the topic of the discussion here, as we look at the downtown core of our city and pretty much all of the other cities across this country. We're starting to see new stuff that we've never seen before. I was just downtown yesterday and I went, what's that? Like this tower with this weird looking thing on the top of it. Is that some kind of a transmitter? Is that a camera? Like, what is that? Because I'd never noticed it before. And then you start seeing these things all around. And well, no, it's a traffic sensor. What is this cable that's going across the road for no good reason here? What is this cable that's going across this bike path for no good reason here? What we need to do is go right to our councillors and demand information on every single piece of technology that they have placed in our cities, in our infrastructures. When it went up, what's it for? What are you guys doing with this stuff? Are these cameras? Are you trying to gauge traffic flows? Are you looking for facial recognition to stop crime before it happens? What's the deal?
Yeah. If you drive down Portage Avenue, on the north side of Portage, at some of the major intersections, like I think I'll get some of these wrong, but it's a Cavalier, Moray, Ferry Road. You'll see this silver pole. It's a separate pole from a light, from a street light, and it goes up, and at the top is a blue sort of thing at the top of it. And like, I have no idea, but they're all at these particular intersections, but they're not on every street. But say maybe every 10th block, they have one of these observation things or something. I'm not sure what they're doing, but it has something to do, with trying to record, or who knows?
Maybe it's an electronic gateway.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to send a sensor across the street. You drive across here and you get fined because you're leaving your zone. You're not supposed to. Catherine asks, how come there's so much surveillance? Maybe she's just freshly tuning in now and hasn't heard of any of this so far.
Well,
Michael says 5G AI surveillance. There you go.
Who knows?
There's been that rumor. I've heard that rumor about that too. So,
well, it's interesting though how they give themselves away in a lot of ways. Shadow, have you got available to show on your screen the 2050 plan, page 13?
Oh. Let me see if I can bring that up here.
Like, I can screen share if you want, because I think it's important. It's a little off topic, but I think it does indicate something that just doesn't seem to make sense. Maybe your viewers can make it make sense for me. It's
have you got it? Have you got it up?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I have screen sharing enabled, but you can always try.
Okay, let's see. Share screen.
Not working?
No, got it right now. So what you're looking at on your screen right now, or you should be.
Okay, here it is.
Okay, I'm right. What you're looking at on your screen right now, this is page 13 of the WMR report, their 2050 plan. What this is, it's the projection of sources of population. Okay, this is how they estimated the population to 2050. Now, I hope you can see my cursor, and I'm going to roll this up just a little bit. So you can see that immigration into Manitoba was the highest ever during the lockdowns and mandates in Manitoba. This white means immigration into Manitoba. This yellow means natural born people in Manitoba having babies. So you can see in 2021, we had more immigration there It was a record number. 2022, a record number. 2023, a record number of immigration to the province. During the time that you were locked down and couldn't go to church and couldn't go to the corner store, they were importing more people into this province than ever. And you can see that their whole basis for this plan, the yellow shows the people from Manitoba having children. So you can see it's going down, and it goes down to 0 by 2040. And it's all based on an estimate of immigration. And you can see way out here at 2050, the white is immigration and the yellow is natural born Manitobans. So there's a couple of things in this graph, and I think it's important. It's in the 2050 plan, page 13. First, when they were locking you down, they were bringing in record numbers of people immigrating into this province. Secondly, the instigation or the basis on this plan is an increase in immigration into the province, which exceeds the natural, the Manitobans having children. So they're giving themselves away on this. They're indicating to you what policy, foreign immigration policy, will be out in 2050. And I think this is just important for people to say, you think that they've got your best interests in mind? Why were they bringing in record numbers of people during the lockdowns? Why?
Because they knew that nobody would notice it and nobody would say anything. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, they created the housing shortage right there. That's how they created housing shortage.
That's
and
exactly.
then housing prices went up. So that's exactly what happened. The interesting about that graph there, Ken, is what is negative childbirth? What does that mean? The last couple of years, I'm not sure what that means.
Too many people are having abortions and too many guys have got vasectomies, I think.
There's another chart there. I think the most information you can get is from the charts, by the way, because it's not words. You can look at numbers and you can make your own conclusions from them if you can, look at what the relationship of them. But I think it's page 11 or page 10. But what it says, it has the graph by age. And so it shows the exact same thing that you're showing there. From 0 to 19 is unchanged for the entire 30 years. And the only increase in population in Manitoba will be from immigration. So it's the exact same.
There's a guy on YouTube. I played a video of his last night on the extension on my website after the regular show was over. And he broke it down across Canada. He said that if immigration stays the way it is right now, we will have 46 million people in Canada by 2030. And that regular born Canadians will be a minority by then. There will be 47% of old stock, as Stephen Harper called us at one time 10 years ago, old stock Canadians. Everybody else is going to be in Canada as a first-generation immigrant. And I found that alarming. And this is all part of the Century Plan. I believe that's what it's called.
Well, the interesting thing about that is when you look at this 2050 plan, it doesn't talk about fixing the darn roads. And we have the worst roads, in my opinion, in Canada here. It doesn't say anything about how do we support people who want to have families. We've created an outlook, a society. We've created finances where people can't have children. And so rather than bringing people in from other parts in the world, why aren't we encouraging Canadians to have children again? Why aren't we getting it so that they can afford to have children?
The answer is at the bottom of the screen. It's the UN agenda. This is what it is. It's mass migration. It's open borders. It is, what did Trudeau say in 2016 or 15, just after he was elected? He said it to the New York Times. He said, Canada will be the world's first post-national state. And we didn't know what that meant at the time. What does it even mean? And we thought he was a moron, just like we think Kamala Harris is a moron today. But she's spouting Marxist doctrine. This is not nonsense word salad that she's saying. Her father was a Marxist based in the Keynesian economy. And Justin Trudeau's father, whoever it was, Fidel Castro or Pierre Trudeau, take your pick. Both of them were Marxists. So whichever father it is, he's got a Marxist father. That makes him a Marxist. Justin Trudeau is a Marxist himself. Gerald Butts is a Marxist. They're all Marxists. and they want a Marxist plan for Canada. They're working with China, they're working with the World Economic Forum, and whoever else to create that perfect utopia that they see. And they've got us conditioned, and this is one of the diabolical things about it. They've got Canadian society so conditioned that if we say anything, if we stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, hold on here, I don't recognize my country anymore, racist. And so we sit down, we shut up, and we say nothing. There we are.
Yes, thanks for that, Shadow. Now I feel a lot better. My hopes, okay, my hopes and wishes here, but maybe this exposing what this Metro Plan 2050 is, and then we're going to expose what Transportation Plan 2050 is for the city of Winnipeg when that comes up. We're going to do both of them. I wonder if that's going to be one of the ways that people will wake up and hopefully see what's going on around them, and we can stop this.
Look at all of this nonsense that continues to happen, right? People look around them right now and they go, this is not right. They don't, some of them, the ones who are just kind of starting to get it, they don't quite know yet what it is. Maybe their pocket books have been affected by this, their bank accounts. Maybe they're noticing the same things that I just pointed out. When they go for a walk in their own neighborhood, they don't even recognize it anymore. It doesn't look like it did 5 years ago. But there is something I want to play that might actually scare some people here. And I'm sorry, I don't want to scare you guys. If you could both mute yourselves, I need to turn the sound on this. This is called The Giant Leap, and it's from Europe. And this is quite alarming. Let's go ahead and play this video. This comes from Ron Valent. It's maybe 2 minutes long, but you guys need, I got to turn the sound down on this. You guys need to hear what this plan is.
Second scenario is the giant leap. We wanted to identify a small set of
I'm sorry, it's called the giant leap scenario. You can look this up on whichever social media platform is easiest for you.
actions, a minimum viable product to reach as many sustainable development goals in Europe's vision of a social and green region. We wanted to take a systems approach to explore if we can achieve an acceptable level of well-being for the global majority on a finite planet. We conclude that nothing less than the following 5 extraordinary turnarounds are needed to have well-being for all while respecting planetary boundaries. Ending poverty, addressing gross inequality, achieving full gender equity, transforming the food system and the way we eat, transitioning to clean energy and efficient energy. We argue that these 5 extraordinary turnarounds and the set of economic reforms that will drive them form the basis of a well-being economy. It is not a blueprint, but more of a guide for systemic transformation. In this scenario, poverty ends a generation earlier than too little too late. We see gender empowerment in 1 generation, not 10. We see a switch to healthier plant-based diets. There is still meat consumption, but...
Wait a minute. Did you hear what she said there? We see gender affirmation in 1 generation, not 10.
Healthier plant-based diets. There is still meat consumption, but at sustainable levels. And we have carbon dioxide emissions every decade to reach net zero by 2050. The economic model everywhere is circular, regenerative, and efficient. Material consumption of unsustainable resources is reined in, fossil energy phased out, and we see a significant redistribution of wealth. In this scenario, we introduce a universal basic dividend operating like a universal basic income, with dividends coming to all people, sharing the wealth of the global commons and public goods. Who's taking the wealth now? It is not properly redistributed. This is not utopic. This is what is fair and just and what a society in transformation is all about.
You guys can go ahead and unmute now. I'm not sure who that woman is. I've been looking for her name. She represents the Green/EFA, which I believe is a political movement in Europe. And that is what she just said there. Does that not sound like Winnipeg Plan 2050 to you? On steroids, obviously, what she said. But when we talk about the UN SDGs and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and all of the gender diversity and equity, which, by the way, is not the same as equality, just so you guys understand, when they say DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're talking about communism. And if you want more on that, you just go ahead and look it up online. Dr. James Lindsay has got some fantastic videos on what that is all about. And that's the kind of stuff being preached by Kamala Harris. And obviously up here as well by Justin Trudeau. And that, a lot of that stuff rings true in that plan, Winnipeg 2050 plan, doesn't it?
They actually say that on page 4 of the plan. I've got it in front of me. Plan 2050 is a 30-year regional plan that is the blueprint for a resilient, sustainable, and globally competitive Winnipeg region. Plan 2050 aligns with the objectives of the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. It says it is page 4 on the plan.
Yeah. But no, heaven forbid. This is nothing to do with taking your car away from you or your land from you. No, of course not. Well, frequently asked questions, my ass.
You know, in the Manitoba Stronger Together WMR 2050 page, we actually have a section there which is called WMR assumption. And
say again?
We have somehow there's an echo button.
Oh, that's just, I've got the volume up there. Okay.
In any case, we have a section there called WMR flawed assumptions. And item number 2 is overinflated impact of Manitoba development on climate change. Do you know how much carbon has not been proved to do anything, by the way, but putting that aside, do you know what Manitoba contributes to the global carbon emissions? This is according to Statistics Canada, 0.0426%. And when you consider, and I go on this thing, it says when you consider the Manitoba is known for its vast natural landscapes, including forests. Estimates of natural undeveloped areas in Manitoba are somewhere between 80 and 90% of Manitoba's total area. In other words, we're net zero carbon already, and yet they're still jamming this down our throat. So you can see that this doesn't end when you become net zero. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing because Manitoba is net zero. And this is, by the way, the statistics on this webpage, we give you the sources. They've come from government sources. So they're telling you Manitoba is net zero, and yet they're still pushing this down your throat.
I don't think it's net zero. I think it's a carbon sinkhole. I think it's probably negative now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, what's next, guys? Are we going to be doing some road shows, some traveling road shows, some information sessions in the municipalities around the city?
Yeah, we hope to get those going. Today I got invited to Dauphin on September the 14th to do a little presentation up there. Excited about doing that because they're not in the region, but the folks up in Dauphin are seeing what's going on here and they're getting worried, very worried.
Yeah, well, everybody should be.
Yeah. So,
but in the meantime, we okay. So look, I mean, Ken, you're looking for KD. You're looking for volunteers on the ManitobaStrongerTogether.ca website, correct?
Yeah, folks can go on there and right on the main ribbon, you can join, and it's free. We don't sell anything. We don't sell memberships. We don't sell branded coffee cups or anything else. You can sign up. Tell us that you want to. There's a section on it where you can tell us that you want to volunteer and what you may or may not want to do. Where it says join there at the top ribbon in red next to the blog. So if you join there and tell us that you want to volunteer, we will get your information out to the team, and we need everybody.
What do we need the most? I mean, I know we need people, but what do we need them to do? We need them to find venues where we can have meetings like this. We need them going door to door saying, hey, have you heard about this plan? Like something basically simple like that.
I think the biggest thing they can do is try to get their friends, family, neighbors, everybody they know, and just get the word out saying, you know, these guys are coming to our area, and get out and listen to them and find out what's going on here. I think that's the most effective thing they can do. It's just getting the information out. because I truly believe this is that every person who reads the plan or finds a bit about it, they get a ton of questions right away, and they go like, I don't want that. Like, nobody wants this. There's nobody wants it. There's not, I can't find a person anywhere goes, I think this is a good idea. Or maybe there might be a few, but I haven't met them. I must travel in the wrong circles, but nobody wants it. You know, nobody wants this. And so this is really kind of, I guess, the reason why they've kept it in the dark, because the electorate, the people, like all these councillors, and in the city of Winnipeg councillors too, there's 15 of them. Like, you'd think they would get out there and say, you know, do you guys like this idea? Because, you know, you elected me and we might be pushing this through, but there's been none of that. It's been all quiet. And to me, that's the biggest flaw in this entire presentation that these guys put together, is that they did everything they could, right up to not allowing any questions from us at their hearings, to just keeping everything in the dark. And if it was such a great idea, they'd be shouting from rooftops and going, hey, look at that. We're going to do this for you guys. We're going to improve your life. You know, we're going to do all this stuff. We hope you like vegetables and insects, but this is going to be great. But they don't say anything. They can't possibly sell the message. The message.
Hey, if you don't want to eat this Beyond Meat stuff, then you can go ahead and sprinkle some of this cricket powder on salad or some noodles that you've made, and you'll get your protein today. It just won't come from any kind of beef products or pork or chicken. Wow, that's coming.
The carnivore diet's making a big comeback out here, so people better get all their beef eaten as quickly as they can here, because it may not be around.
Well, you know, the other thing that we should be encouraging people to do is phone their council member, phone their mayor. On our Manitoba Stronger Together webpage, we list all of the mayors and council members for all 17 of the rural municipalities. Tomorrow, we will have posted all of their email addresses and phone numbers. So you just go there, pick up the phone, and phone your councillor, like I did with my wonderful mayor out here in St. Clemens, and a week now she hasn't returned my email or my calls. I think maybe we need to get somebody running against Debbie Fibblecorn in the next election, which is coming up in 2 years, by the way.
Maggie Hope Braun also gave us an idea to go ahead and order hard copies of the plan from their offices on St. James Street, right?
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because, you know, a certain person that we both know and love tried to go to their offices today, and she did a video of it. You can't believe where that office is, and don't try to find it because there's no signage. She had to go to a couple of businesses in the area and ask, and then she filmed this little nondescript door with a little sign beside it in the bottom of a parkade. And we're going to post that email on the Manitoba Stronger Together site tomorrow, so folks can find it, because she sure had a hard time finding it.
Yeah, I've got that video too. I was going to play it and I just didn't have time to get it set up. Anyway, guys, we got to wrap up. I got to go to the extension here on the website, but I want to thank you both for being so diligent with your involvement in this and your digging and trying to, you know, bring to light what they have been trying to keep in the dark. You, Ken, have been amazing in digging deeply into, especially now lately, this John Q thing and putting all of this together. And then Ken, of course, making it for public consumption on the website. You guys have both been doing fantastic work on this, and please continue. If you guys watching can provide any help or any kind of hints or ideas, get a hold of us through manitobastrongertogether.ca. There is an email link there that you can just click on and send your concerns or ideas, and we'll get back to you. Thank you. Ken and Ken, have a great night. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Thanks, Shadow.
Thanks, Shadow.
Okay, guys. Take it easy. We'll talk to you later. There's Ken Drysdale and Ken Lee. They are heavily involved in the resistance, shall we say. And I don't like using that because, you know, the second I hear the resistance, what comes to mind to me is Terminator, you know, like set 40 years in the future where we're fighting cybernetic creatures, AI-driven cybernetic creatures. And we're in the army fatigues and smoking cigarettes and drinking brandy, cheap brandy, and planning an assault. Or maybe the Matrix, where we're the resistance yet again, wearing tattered clothing and eating gruel. But maybe that's what we'll wind up being. That is it for the social media portion of the show tonight, you guys. Thank you very much for being here. Please go ahead and check out all the information that we provided for you tonight on Manitoba Stronger Together. Ken Drysdale has done a fantastic job of putting that together for all of us to make it right there at your fingertips. So you don't have to go around Googling things and going from website to website to website. It's all right there in one spot for you. And the links will go out as opposed to moving you from between websites. They'll just pop open a new window. You guys have a great night. I will catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. I'm not done. The extension, we've got all kinds of things yet to talk about on the extension for all access members at shadowdavis.com. That is coming up in just 2 minutes. I love you all. I appreciate you all. I will talk to you very, very soon, tomorrow night or in 2 minutes. Bye for now.